So I'm not quite sure how to start this out, but every time I start and every time I make these videos, I feel like I get closer and closer to defining spiritual awakening. And the mechanics of what I see, what I'm experiencing. And it's a very difficult thing to put into words. It's trying to explain the unexplainable. And I think that a lot of people, that certain people who get in these arenas of existence like I am in right now, I've been in for a very long time. I think it could be confusing, it could be painful. There's much information out there on all of these different ideas of what's happening, what's not happening, what to do, what not to do. And I tried to figure out a starting point. And every time I do this, I don't know exactly where to start because there's just so much. So it's a giant puzzle piece. And the first thing I think I'll start off is just of the logic or illogic, if you will, on it. The only thing that has been turned into a religion, which should never have been a religion, and I don't know if they even consider it a religion, but it's comes from a people called the Jains, and these are people from India, and it goes back from way before even Jesus' time. And there's a fellow who there's so many stories out there of different varieties of what happened and what didn't happen. But as the story goes, it was a prince, a young man. He was born into royalty. He lost both of his parents, and he decided to take the same path as Buddha. And I think Buddha was actually in the same vicinity as this guy here. And they both kind of did similar things where they just relinquished their crown and, just started walking the earth, trying to figure out what the fuck was going on. What's out there? There's got to be something more. And what happened? The reason why the Jain people's way is the only thing I can really find that touches on the nerve, on the openings that I see in my life that I've been experiencing, and the craves and the wants, the meaningfulness, the purpose. And the Jains people actually will sweep the floor so they don't crush any bugs while they're walking. They even wear little masks so they don't breathe in or hot air or breathe into bug. They basically just don't want to hurt anything on the planet. Coming from this prince who spent, I think it was 14 years without speaking. I mean, there's so much to unravel on this. He figured out that words were just damaging. Trying to talk, trying to figure this out. I think he came to the same area that I am right now, where it's very difficult to actually take part of the human experience. There's like almost nothing to say. All right, so these Jain people, it's like I told you, it's going to be all over the place. Their idea is that you want to dust your karma off your life, that if you don't get to a place in life where you conquer yourself instead of trying to conquer the world or anything else, but you conquer yourself, you live the most peaceful, happy, symbiotic relationship you can without harming anything, you don't have to come back here again. Whereas if you neglect these things, you have to keep coming back over and over and over again through reincarnation. And I'm not saying that I even buy into reincarnation at this state. I have no idea. I have my feelings, my gut, my thoughts, my logic. But it makes so much sense to me that, God, there's so much that this could possibly be a thing and touching on the Jain religion, and someone might correct me if I'm wrong, because there's many different uh, dialects of the religion, many different parts. It's spread off in many things, but one of the things they believe is that there's a certain hell, and it's not the hell as in the Christian or Catholicism where, you know, it's burning and it's the devil and, you know, it's this place where you'll stay forever. Yeah, baby girl, I'm making a video. I'm making a video if you don't mind. But it's a place rather where it could be a hell because you are you seriously, you're gonna snuggle right now? It's a hell because you'll have to keep repeating yourself over and over again. If you don't get it right, you will keep coming back to, well, getting kitty baths. This is my baby girl. We adopted this little homeless cat here. But it's a place where if you don't get it right and you don't clean yourself, you'll have to keep repeating. And there's nothing more terrifying to me than kind of like a Groundhog's Day, where if you don't get it right and you keep repeating the same thing, it's the same day, same life, same lessons. In fact, it could get worse where you experience a more uncomfortable life every single time because you're accumulating, you're getting this dust, this dirt, this stickiness, this garbage on you, and it drives you further and further and further away from graduating or progressing to whatever the next level is. Now, the Jains people believe that there's an eternal bliss where you don't have to come back to this. And the things that I touch on is that I have the same thing, the same agenda, I think, as the Jains people. Inventing the biodegradable container gardening system was my biggest thing before I even knew about these people. That's why I see a correlation here. The biodegradable container gardening system was designed to not harm anything at all. It's a burlap system with hanging plants, with wire mesh nettings. I've spent a lot of my days and time trying to keep the animals and insects, basically give them no access. Deer, possums, raccoons, nothing can really get through into like this aviary kind of thing, right? But the holes were just big enough to let in the bees and pollinators and stuff like that, where they can come in and out, right? Lizards were able to come in, but along came in mice, which I've eradicated the harm that was needed to do to them, because they'll come in and just kill all your tomatoes. They'll just eat everything halfway and, you know, shit inside your planters and things like that. So I designed these little cones, and I used these beekeeper secret, which is axle grease, to put around the suspended garden where these baskets were hanging, so that slugs, snails, I went through to where we didn't even have to kill slugs or snails. Like, basically there was only a few things that had to be killed, and literally I didn't even have to do the harm to the insects after a while. There was anything flying, like a flying aphids. Aphids would come in and they would land all over my plants. I even designed a way to breed plants that were not susceptible to or as susceptible towards aphids. And in fact, I let everything stay to nature. We didn't turn any soil or nothing. That we actually had a natural predator come to do the killing for me. These parasitic wasps love to lay their eggs inside the aphids, and they, as long as I didn't disturb anything, it took about almost a year. And then I had this, what started with an infestation of aphids, I had an infestation of parasitic wasp. And the parasitic wasp will basically just lay a parasite egg, its baby, inside the aphid, and you'll see them puff up like big giant balls, and then pop, the parasite comes out, and that turns into a wasp, and then it continues the cycle. And because I didn't disturb anything, it was doing it for me, which is a very strange thing. Basically, like biological, I don't even know if I don't think you'd call it biological warfare, but on a certain aspect of that. So I didn't have to do anything. The only thing that I had to set out traps for at that point was rats. As you see, a mouse can, from a crouching position, can jump up to about a foot. My baskets were raised up about 2 feet or so from the bottom. So I did a game camera to figure out what was going on, and I just saw mice. They could not get in. They couldn't get past my mice cones. They didn't like the axle grease. I seen them constantly cleaning their paws. They basically just had no access, so they finally gave up. A rat now, on the other hand, could jump from a crouching position up to 4 feet, and they would jump up and they would just massacre my tomatoes and things like that. So it was one species, and I'm sure I would have figured that out if I would have kept going on and I had to close the whole thing down. So I'm on the same vein as this brought me great delight. I consider this a body of work that has fulfilled me in one aspect, because I have many aspects of things that I like to do, but that felt like an achievement. So this is what brought me to the Jains people, and what also brought me towards certain aspects of the Jain people, not all. Some of it just sounds completely ludicrous to me, and I'm not knocking it at all, but it's the only organization I can say or practice that is the closest to the concepts of the way I live and think. Let's move forward to another conversation here, is watching the warfare of nature. So the very thing that the Jain people and I myself try to protect, we're moving on besides humanity. Humanity's insane. Humanity's fucking lost its marbles. And that's been a very difficult part for me to partake in, even in conversations, all aspects of that might be a different conversation for another day. But one of the things I realized was, moving on from humanity, I see these people going through certain things. I also come from type 2 diabetes. I beat diabetes, and my first thing I wanted to do was go out there and throw a rope out in the ocean, what do they call that? A little floaty, right? And help as many people as I can to get them out of the torrent of type 2 diabetes, black ocean, this illness, and help them do what I did. And what I figured out is that most people are so brainwashed and addicted to food and sugars and things like that, and lazy, where they'd rather, and I do mean that, lazy, where they'd rather take the medications and continue stuffing their face to fill this hole inside them that will never be filled. In fact, is making the situation worse. So I learned that humanity, not just through type 2 diabetes, but the way of thinking, guys, we're depleting our resources. We're ruining this planet on a massive scale, and all for the sake of convenience. And you can't get a word, you can't make any change, basically at all. So people not only don't care about the planet, the earth they came from, or anything like that. I mean, if you're a Christian, and you believe in God, to me, the Father, and the Father's built this thing for you, and you're just basically pulling your pants down and taking a big shit on it, right? And just dumping motor oil everywhere and just basically killing and destroying everything. I don't think he'd be too proud. I don't think he'd be too happy about that. But people don't care about their planet. They don't care about their spirituality. They don't care about themselves. I mean, to me, it's literal suicide. I mean, if you're eating food and taking medications and things that are going to worsen you, that at some point you're going to lose parts of your body, you're going to die, and that still doesn't stop you, that's called sickness. So I know that people are sick. I know the ways of this engineering and this rat maze place that we live in is wrong. But once I got past that, I started to look at things like this parasitic wasp attacking these aphids. The aphids are attacking the plants. In my book too, one of the things with the Jains people is that everything is alive: water, wind, light, rocks, plants. There's so many people that say, well, don't eat anything with a face because it's murder, right? But trees and plants, the vegetable kingdom, the vegetation that's on this planet, all those get kind of put aside. We can chainsaw a tree down to make some toilet paper to wipe our ass, but don't go kill a cow to eat, right? And we'll just we'll basically rape plants. We'll plant stuff the way we want to see it. We'll actually genetically modify them for flavor and texture and color and all this, which really most of the food that has been modified doesn't really taste that great. But where was I? Some noise outside got me sidetracked here. So it brings me to the point where um, I'm watching these parasitic wasps kill the aphids, and the aphids are killing the plants, right? I mean, literally, the aphids will just suck the shit out of the juice out of plants, and it's this killing cycle all over. So when you move away from humanity, and I don't want to make this too dark, right? And that's why I guess I'm kind of here bringing this out, and I can't offer you any consolation, any kind of remedy towards it other than we just keep pushing forward, because I think once you get to a certain point you kind of got to keep going, right? And it's painful and it's lonely. I think a very difficult thing for people to grasp. But once we move away from people and humanity and we go to nature and we say, well, nature is beautiful, nature has the way. Not necessarily, because if you become an observer of things and you stop participating in things, we move away from humans, we start getting into nature. And if you sit long enough, like my beautiful kitty cat, I love her to death. But she's killing all the butterflies, the moths, the grasshoppers, the lizards, the birds. There's literally nothing here that can live with this animal. And yes, I love you, princess. I really do love you. I'm not trying to talk shit. But it's a very, you cuddle this thing. It's soft. It's adorable. She licks me, cleans me. She's very happy that I adopted her and took her in. A beautiful animal. She purrs. She sleeps with me. She brings great delight until I'm watching in my living room a poor little lizard being ripped apart slowly, just straight up being murdered. But when we look in the insect, I mean, even human cells, in the body, there's all kinds of different things going on with parasites inside that grab antigens from our bodies. When your immune system comes in to check, to attack something, these parasites have the same DNA as, so science says, as us. They have a couple subtle differences, and what they'll do is grab antigens from our body and basically cloak themselves. So when your immune system comes to scan to think if there's to look for them, they pass right by them and think, hey, it's one of us. Very fascinating. So there's this war and this death and this killing and rebirth all around us. But for sanity reasons, if one was to not participate in things, and this is where I think that Prince, going back to the Jain people, by not speaking anymore, trying to clear your mind, to remove yourself from the human experience, all human experiences, from sex to violence to joy to love to all these things, and just become a bystander, just like a what do they say? I'd love to be a fly on the wall. The more you start to remove emotions from these observations, one may, as myself, start to see the insanity in just about everything, even nature. If you look at a little squirrel or a bird or something, they'll go down to the lake or the body of water to drink something, and these poor things just look like they're ready to fucking get pummeled by. Like they're just wondering, is this my time? Like all I want to do is get a drink of fucking water. Am I gonna get eaten alive here? Right? Everything. I'll sit in nature and watch a group of crows come in and grab a mockingbird's baby, right out of the nest and eat it. The cruelty of nature, even in the animal kingdom or the plant kingdom. In certain plant kingdoms, there's certain ivies that'll come out and choke out a tree, right? There's all kinds of different things, species that will take over other species and completely eradicate them. It's like a war. So as one may start to observe these type of things, you may ask yourself, what was this created for? What is the meaning of this existence that we're in? Now, all due respect to the Jain people for getting peacock feathers and little brooms and trying to remove ants and stuff so they don't kill absolutely anything, let alone everything around them is literally killing each other. This is where I would define, and I know this may sound crazy, is this could be a certain sort of hell. But again, not the hell of the devil and the fire and everything like that. In some aspects, much worse. This could be a place of punishment, because if you really think about it, everything's born. We have gravity, right? Gravity. I think what some scientists say that our bodies, human bodies at least, and maybe all animals, I don't know, are literally cooking themselves to death. It's like a microwave oven. Your body's literally cooking itself till the day you die. And that's what happens is your immune system starts to weaken up. You're cooking yourself, you're aging, you have gravity setting in. You look at older people, right? You come into this world helpless and someone needs to tend to you, and then the majority of people, and I don't think not all, but the majority, 99.9%, end up shitting their pants. Parts are starting to give out slowly. It's a very painful, it looks like a very painful, not so very pleasant situation. And yeah, that one's very, very odd to me. And this is where the Jains people come in with their practices, again, depending on which group, to where I think this is could be a place of punishment. And the answer to that is, I don't know. There's so much to unpack here. One of the things that I've learned is the 5 whys, and I think it comes from Japan. And one of the things you could do is ask yourself why 5 times on one particular question. And let me pull this up. This might be of some interest to some people, because it was kind of interesting to me here. This is kind of like a self-help thing. This is where I look at, and I think if you take the engineering of this, I don't think you need to beseech anybody for anything. Really, you can find out what's going on in your head. And so I have 2. I have exterior and I have interior. And my problems. These are things that are bothering me. And what is bothering me? One was, I don't understand why I'm here. Thinking of this hell kind of scenario, this could be, the insanity of nature of people. Why am I even here? What's my purpose? Right? And that's what the first thing this is the first question too. I don't understand why I'm here. This is something that's bothering me. And okay, well, why don't you understand why you're here? And the very first thing that came to my mind, which is what you want to do, don't overthink it. I said, because there's no purpose and meaning, was what it seems like to be alive. Not that I want to die or anything like that. I'm just looking, going, I don't understand why I'm here. That's because it's very difficult to find purpose and meaning in any of these things. We have people who don't want to change. They're destroying the planet. There's animals eating each other, insects eating each other, warfare, pain, gravity, literally microwave people cooking themselves, right? None of it makes any sense, right? So, okay, well, because there's no purpose or meaning, well, why? Because without purpose or meaning, life seems empty and pointless. This is question number 2 of the why. Okay. So emptiness and pointless. Why would purposelessness and meaninglessness feel empty and pointless? It's because there's nothing to do but just sit and let the clock run out, was my third answer to that question. Oh, okay. So just sit and do nothing. All right. Well, what would be so wrong with just doing nothing and just occupying space? My next answer to that was, well, it's boring. I thought that was interesting. Boring. Okay, like we need some sort of entertainment or something, or we need to do something, right? So my next question to that, boring. Okay, well, what would just occupying space and doing nothing need to not be boring? Well, I put in here and I found my answer: growing my own food, living in a clean, quiet, peaceful environment, surrounded by nature, and expanding my entire being. And that's exactly what I tend to do, right? I maybe end up moving to a buffalo farm in Florida. I don't know. We're gonna next few weeks. I'll know about that. But very interesting here. Going back to the founder of the Jains organization, the Indian people. It's kind of what he did. Disassociated himself from everything. Stayed quiet didn't speak a word for 14 years, as the story goes, and began to expand himself. And if you look at a lot of these people, the Buddha, I don't mean just to take these Asians. There's a lot, Jesus, right? There's a lot of people who just gave up a lot of things, went solo, stayed quiet, and expanded their spirituality, their minds, their wisdom, I would say, their comprehension of consciousness. And this is where I looked at possibly, is it because I want to stay deterred from this, right? Am I being lazy because in order to sit and do nothing and it's boring? I mean, there's never nothing. You can take everything away, right? Make everything invisible. Try to get rid of every single thing on the planet, which was a question I've had since I was a child. There's still something. You can't ever have just nothing, right? But I wonder, doing nothing and just occupying space is such a bad thing. This is where we get from the rat race. And the first thing that came to my mind was, well, I have to be productive. Well, productive at doing what? Making money. I got to survive. I got to pay my medical. I got to get food, right? What am I going to do? Live on the streets? All this business and this my life that I've built up, my Sprinter van and my savings account, all that's at jeopardy if I sit and do nothing, right? And this is what got me going. Let's take it back to the Jains. I know I'm all over the place, but so this guy, just like Jesus, I think, and just like Buddha, and mind you, this is way before Jesus, this Jains guy. That's not his name, right? But this Jains guy came in, and what he did at the religions at the time is he said, we don't need temples, we don't need gods, we don't need any of these practices. Everything comes from within. And he was basically saying that what you need to do is quiet the mind down, quiet everything down, be still, and do nothing. Don't partake in any of this drama, noise, and these distractions. Go inward if you want to clean your karma, clean your soul up, and you want to expand beyond this madness. But it has nothing to do, there's nothing that anybody can tell you, right? You can kind of give the map like he was doing. But he basically said, we need to stop this way of doing it. It's not right. In fact, it's keeping us further. And I agree with him. Any kind of physicality, any kind of something that you have to take outside, exterior of yourself is not going to, it's going to spin you out. Everything is internal. And we all have a big problem, I think, with sitting around and doing nothing. Again, it doesn't mean just absolutely nothing. It's working on yourself. And I can go into detail with that if anybody wants to hear what I do. And I'd be interested to know what you do if you're in this position of an awakening period and what you see exercises, things to do, because it's very difficult. Once you stop partaking in the ways of humanity and the ways of this world, the natural world included, it's like, well, what's the point, right? But the thing that got me, again, I'll say this is way before Jesus' time, but there's some commonalities here. Most of these people, all of these people really came in and said that this is something interior that you have to work on yourself. Let's stop the gods, the physical objects that we pray to. You don't need to go into a temple or a church. What is it? Jesus Christ said that the kingdom of heaven is within you. There's nowhere you have to go. There's nowhere you could go. It's already in you. And if we recognize that and start to work on that and really understand what that means, then we can fix things, right? But what happened when Jesus died? What happened when this Jain guy died? What happened when Buddha died? It was the exact same thing. They've erected physical forms to worship, physical locations where you have to go, right? Or in the Jains, I don't think they say they have to go, But what I'm accumulating in my mind is that it's easier to go to a temple because it keeps you less distracted. It's easier to follow a man than follow your own path, as such as I do, because it's an abyss. There's no floor, there's no ceiling, there's no directions, there's no map, there's no manual, right? And what happens time after time? People take these men's work and worship them as individuals and turn them into gods instead of listening to what the body of work, the words were, the instructions that they gave them. And the only thing I can think of is it's a lot easier to make sacrifices as they used to do in the old days, or give gifts, right? And sit and pray to this God instead of taking the initiative into yourself. And that's what this James guy said. By sitting, doing almost nothing, and inverting into myself to understand, to conquer myself. How could you, Bob Marley said it, I think it was, could you love and could you be loved? How could you love somebody if you don't love yourself? An airplane's going down, you better put the oxygen mask on yourself first so you don't, before you black out, instead of worrying about your child and the people around you, put that mask on and then help as many people as you can. Help yourself first, get to know yourself, know thyself. And he's a pretty popular one, but no, we'll turn this all into gods that we can worship. They even changed this James guy's name into Hero. Great hero, from what I believe. When he died, I think it was the ripe age of mid-70s, somewhere around there, he sat underneath a tree. He felt that this was his time, and he spoke his words, trying to help as many people as possible for 2 days straight. The story goes for 48 hours. He passed away, pleasantly, I guess. They cremated him and then stuck him inside of this little marble ball, I think, made a lake with a water fountain and everything around it to celebrate him. And in fact, throughout India, I believe, is they light these lanterns up because they say he was the light. He came in and brought the light to our people, to the planet. And now that he's gone, we want to hang these lanterns and light these lanterns to remember his light, right? Fuck remembering what he was saying, that it's all within. I don't know. I don't know what to explain other than humanity kind of passes off the attention and the responsibility towards gods, deities, temples, churches, what have you, because I think it's too much to go stay quiet for 14 years, right? Not that you have to. I think a lot of these people, such as myself, the things that I've realized, the things that I've come across, explored in my mind, and experiences I've had, I'm like, I can shortcut you, kind of like this 5 whys. If you're lost and you're stuck, just keep asking yourself 5 whys on the same question. And the first thing that comes to your mind, and do this multiple times, and you'll start to find, wow, but no, we'll go worship something else. So humanity's hopeless at this point. Maybe something will change. It's just a perspective, but they keep doing the same fucking thing over and over again. And I'm sure I have too, if reincarnation exists. And it just keeps going and going and going. So what is the antidote? Where do we go next with all of this? And this participation with humanity for myself is getting stranger and stranger and more difficult. It's like a giant sitcom show where, we're making funny jokes, puppy dogs farting, and it's just a bunch of meaninglessness and purposelessness. And I don't know where to insert myself in any of that. And it's getting more and more of a divide. Now I'm fine with being alone. Some of these insights and realizations that I have, I think would freak a lot of people out. I guess the question I always have is, show me your perspective or prove me that I'm wrong, right? Some people will say, well, that's just your perspective. That's just how you see things. Doesn't mean that's the way it is. I would invite anybody, let's sit together. Let's sit together and observe. Remove your emotions. Remove rationality. logic, all these just remove basically everything and just see it as it is, right? And that's what a lot of these gurus and a lot of these specialty, I think it was like Buddha and many different religions, just seeing things as they truly are. If you want to see the truth, don't judge, don't think, don't, just see it as it is. And I wonder if you would see the same thing that I see. I mean, it's kind of hard to watch a crow eating a baby bird, or this cat literally killing hundreds of lizards, right? Torturing it to death. Say, well, is it just your experience? Or maybe this is called some cycle of life. And that's just the way things are. It just is. Well, after a while, you may ask yourself, why is it is? Why is it like this? What is this? What point? What purpose? And why is it that most people, who I find, a lot of them, who I find highly intelligent, uh, a lot of them are saying, this is the last life I want to be here. I think I'm moving on. I'm not coming back. Which is an enigma to me as well. So a lot of these gurus and these people are out to help as many people on this murderous, insane, illogical life scenario, right? A place where they're saying, I want to help as many people to do as best as they can here before I go. Maybe I'm missing something. You can tell me in the comments, maybe. I'm going to help as many people, but I'm not coming back. And a lot of these claim this, there is heaven on earth. It's your perception. Well, if it's such a great place and there's heaven on earth and it's all about joy, peace, and love, then why wouldn't you want to come back to this? Why would you say this is your last one? That's my question. I mean, there's so many. And that's logic, I guess. Many of these things I said maybe can't be explained, such as the Akashic records and consciousness as a whole. And the last thing I think, because I do need to get to bed, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. One of the things that I came across was no person is an island. No man is their own island. They all need help. And the whole universe is one. Now, I don't know for a fact. And again, this is going into logic. But when I think about someone like Hitler or Gandhi, right? These are two extremes. We had Hitler, who pretty much forced almost the entire world to experience what he was putting forth. A lot of suffering, murder, I'm sure rape, and horrible things, horrible experiences. Dragged it in, and basically you had no choice. You had to go through it. I think if he would have had his way, he would have just, like Genghis Khan, just took over a large portion, not the whole earth. And then what would we have, right? But this individual was very powerful. In some ways, I think a genius on some things that he's done. Not the murder or anything like that, but some of the inventions. I heard he invented the freeway. He had a lot of stuff that made sense, a lot of stuff that was just wacko, right? I'm not endorsing the man at all, don't get me wrong. But why is it that one individual was able to do that? Now we have Gandhi, when the British invaded India, from what my level of understanding was focused more on peace and meditation and, living kind and everything. And they did not know how to defend themselves. And the British knew this and saw their resources. They were going to fucking come in and sweep you guys. We're going to take it, to the point where they said, you cannot go to the ocean to get salt. We will not let you. And the people are like, we're fucking dying here. We need salt to live on. We're going to go get salt. And they says, well, no, you're not. And hundreds, if not thousands of people lined up, said, we're going to go walk and get salt. And these British started clubbing them one after another, blocking them from the road. And they were instructed, I believe, from Gandhi, as the story goes that I can recollect. There's so much information in this noodle. They just kept walking peacefully and let the British keep knocking them until they tired out and finally stopped and said, we can't control it. They just keep coming in droves. They said, no, we don't care. And finally they broke the barricade and walked and tended to buried probably some people who died. and tended to the people who were wounded, and went and got salt, and finally defeated the British by just saying no. And Gandhi was a wonderful person, but that one man, as an individual, was an island. I kind of wonder, and Hitler, he was an island. Each and every one of us, I believe, is an island because, as I said, let's go back to the Jains people. One guy decided not to talk, decided to remove all his clothes, go out to nature and figure out what the fuck was going on. And he worked on himself for many, many years and saw some cool shit and came up with some cool stuff to teach people, to share with them how to live peaceful and divine. But there is no, as I said, helping people, because 99.9%, maybe there's 1% out there that get what I'm saying. Not to say that I have the right way or anything like that, but these 99.9% of people aren't willing to do the work, and they are an island, because it's not until each one of the billions of people that we have here literally accept, I got to work on myself first. Not all humanity, obviously. Look at what these great people have done, one after another after another. Gandhi was killed, Malcolm X was killed, so many people, that did great things were killed. Jesus Christ was nailed to a cross, right? Instead of celebrated. And in fact, Jesus, one of the most compelling things that I heard from him was when he was being nailed, it occurred to him, he said, you know what, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. They don't even know what the fuck they're doing. I think verses like this and words, sentences, goes right over a lot of people's heads. That's the way I interpret it, and that's what I see. And I think people are doing such evil things, don't know how to change, want to change, but stuck in the drama. They have no idea what they're doing. And it keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. And I think that maybe the majority of people are just not getting it. They're not that bright, right? Not the brightest Crayola in the box, sharpest tool in the shed. And I think there are some that do, but aren't willing to put in the work to stay quiet and to move inward. In fact, it's a lot easier to go exterior and say, well, the world did it to me. These people are here. There's so many reasons why we shouldn't just, as I was explaining here in my 5 whys, why would I just sit and do nothing, right? I can't handle it. It's boring, right? It's much more funner to go with other people and pray at a chapel and worship a God and give gifts and work with people instead of going by myself and really figuring out what the fuck I need to do, what my problems are, to conquer myself. So, are you an island? I think you are at this point. Maybe you think something will change, but until we realize that we are not all one, maybe once we get past this, we are one. You see, I have this, one of the achievements that I want in my life, and like these drywall, disgusting, toxic painted wood floor, chemicals all around me, breathing in this little Ziploc bag with I have all my windows open, guys. Even though it's cold, I always have my windows open. I have this achievement where people say, well, I'm one with nature. Maybe mentally, maybe spiritually. I don't think so, because I think they all collide, which is another thing. I know I'm jumping around, but I hate the way these gurus and these religions separate the human form from the spiritual form. Like the human form's just crap, and they're two different things. I think that's the secret, is once we realize that they're not two different things, they're actually the same thing within us, maybe we'll get somewhere. But in order to be at one and live in harmony with nature, I think it's whatever nature does affects you, right? If it's raining, like say in this buffalo farm in Florida, I get to have water that I can bathe and drink, and it's the cleanest water that I can think of, besides the contaminants it's getting from the sky, but better than drilling a well with septic tanks and leach lines everywhere and farm runoff, right? At least I'm just drinking jet fuel instead of human shit. What nature does affects me, and what I do affects it. So now there's this dual relationship. If I plant trees and they grow after a few amount of years, maybe these native birds will or new birds will come, and they'll start making nests. And because I have a garden, I didn't till the soil, these different insects will show up. And now these birds have something to eat. They'll murder these insects, right? But what I plant, if I don't have enough water, if I don't have good soil, if I don't till the soil and kill the microorganisms, if I just do a food forest, live natural, live clean, be with nature in all its insanity and beauty, now I've become with nature, right? My clothes, my shoes, my energy, my cooking with fire that warms me, what speaking about when it's cold. I can cook my food with it. All this depends on nature. And nature depends on me. I think I depend more on it than it does on me. I can only paint it like a canvas. But that's when I think that's where one of my goals, I think that's where I'm headed towards, is to pretty much just live in the fucking dirt. I mean, it's pretty primitive. I call this glamping. But to most people, I think they wouldn't be able to make it into a thing like this. I got a whole pellet kitchen out there. And yeah, what is the meaning of all of this? Oh, I think, as I said, the more and more I keep exploring and the more and more I keep talking, I'm not sure if I'll ever get to the point of it. And I may repeat myself on a few things because it's like a trail of thought that I try to follow. And there was this weird vision dream that I had where when I was aware that this was happening, I was basically on what felt like a tram, but there was no tram. I didn't even really see my body, anything. It was just dark with no stars, no nothing, just a dark space. And I had the sense that I was out in outer space, but so far out in outer space that there wasn't even any stars. And there was these beings that were taking me to this place to do this thing, right? Almost felt like Disneyland. I was like, oh, wow, when are we going to get there? And as we're coming, I see this thing, this line starting to form. And as we've passed, you can see it start to open up like a door. It was the angle that we were passing through. And as we passed through, I can see was a porthole. And in that door, that little square thing or whatever it was, I could see stars and I saw planet Earth. And I was like, whoa, hey, that's where I live. Yeah, that's planet Earth. I've never seen it from this perspective. I was like, slow it down. Like, hey, we got more important things to do, right? I was like, no, this is my thing. Slow it down, put it in reverse. I want to see it again because we passed it. It was relatively fast. Came by again. I saw it was Earth. They took, come, are you ready now? I said, no, one more time. And I was looked at it. I was like, wow. And they're like, okay, let's stop the fascination and move forward. So we kept proceeding through this darkness until we came to this, what felt like a cube of empty space, but it definitely had like some walls, some barriers to it, a ceiling and a floor and everything. And what these beings told me says, the truth and the answer to life is so simple that you can't understand it. But we're going to show you what to do. And it's incomprehensible. And they said, it's very simple. We're going to show you this procedure. And then you just keep practicing it and then you'll know. And I was like, okay, I know. They're like, no, you don't know. You don't know. It's so simple. It's uncomprehensible. This is what we do in life is we create things. And when they said we create things, the whole entire space filled up with forms like bubbles and geometric shapes that occupy space that literally pressed me to the against of the wall where it was just almost suffocating. There was no room to move. I was pinned. They said, so we make things and then we discreate things. And everything went blank. I could move again. And they kept doing this exercise. We build belief systems and things that occupy physical space, such as thoughts and things, is what I took from it. We make things, we discreate things. We make things, we discreate things. Back and forth. Ebb and flow. Keep practicing this, and that is the first fundamental. You will understand truth, the meaning of life, and everything. And I thought I would share that before I forget it. And that's the only thing that I can remember. I wish I would have spoken about that vision dream sooner, but yeah, I think this is a hard pill to swallow, especially the whole hell thing. I mean, that's terrifying. So many different, I don't know what to say anymore other than I want to come out and share these neurotic, far out there ideas of mine and observances before I feel like there's nothing more to say. I almost feel like this Janes guy, I'm going to call him, I can't remember his name, I wouldn't pronounce it right anyway if I saw it. But it's becoming such a job to partake in humanity. I'm not really interested in much of sex. I'm not interested in movies, and conversations are very difficult to get through. Um, a lot of this points, there's Carl Jung, or yeah, Jung. Was it Carl Jung? Boy, it's been so late. Yeah, Jungian theory is the awakening period, and it could be painful. It could be very. You could feel unmotivated. He had a lot of interesting things to say. Um, there's another gentleman that I can't remember. If you start typing in Alan Watts, that's what it was. Alan Watts has some very interesting perspectives on what's going on. And if you find yourself in this situation, I think it's good to talk as best we can. I mean, I don't know what there is to talk about, but it seems very deceiving. It feels like a state of paralysis because you don't know what to do. What do you think? What do you do? And I think the answer is do nothing. Why does life? Let's go back to my five whys. My question there: Why is there something wrong with meaninglessness and purposelessness? In fact, if you come in here unbiasedly to this world and take a look, there's almost no meaning to anything. Things are living and dying, eating each other, growing, not growing. It's a very strange existence that really is perpetual, purposeless, and meaninglessness. Right, Kitty? The only thing to do, I think, is to keep pushing forward, to stay quiet, quiet the mind. Know that fear is just an illusion. It's a difficulty with the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the future, and we think of this anxiety, the stems of anxiety, stress, and fear is the unknown. We have no idea what's coming, and we fear that. And this gives us anxiety, and anxiety gives us stress, and it's things that we don't even know are even certain. So the answer to me is to quiet down, push through, as weird as it is. And that's the thing I think I can say here is that one of the things that I finally found, and I'm not sure if it's quite a fear, it's more of an addiction, I think, to the human experience. You know, what happens if I keep going on this trajectory? I've got parents, I've got family, right? I got friends, and it's already becoming harder and harder to relate and to even have anything to say. And I don't want to lose that. And it's a very strange experience. But what is the alternative? We just stay doing what we're doing, right? We're all to come back again if reincarnation exists, or having these meaningless, purposeless conversations about a bunch of nothing. Watching the cat murder the fucking, the poor lizard on the ground, or the bird, and just kind of watch. Yeah, well, that's what it is. Never asking why. And am I going to have to keep doing this over and over and over again? Is there somewhere else that is there some sort of state of eternal bliss, as these Jains people believe? But I notice it's a fear and a clutch to hold on to something that's not even holdable. I mean, even family, blood, friends, as you notice things change, they change, you change. It's not the same. In fact, what I observe when I go in unbiasedly is a lot of gatherings that people do And speaking is out of obligation. Also, a constant deflection of feeling the moment. I think it's probably strange that we all experience each other. We know there's something going on. Like when someone comes, you never met a person, you're like, I just don't like that person. There's something going on. I can feel the energy, right? That's why everyone needs to just constantly chit chat, talk to fill in the space, never sit in that awkward silence, which to me is not awkward. I've had people in my life where we sit quietly for hours, they never said a word, just observing things and just quiet, thinking, being in each other's space. But it's so difficult for people. So that's our alternative, is to say things, fill up the space, say nice things. Don't talk about these kind of weird fucking things. That's for goddamn sure. You know, let's not split the candle in half. So that's what I've got today. I think once you awake, you can't go back to sleep. I think it's a very painful thing. Is that's the other thing I've noticed, was that in your heart, like myself, going back to the diabetes and the biodegradable container gardening, is you want to help people. It just comes out of you. Like, okay, I think I've helped myself. I have this joy, I have this fulfillment, I have this expansion, this knowledge, and these things, such as my garden, I can look at and say, what a beautiful thing. We've almost got it down to where all we're not killing is rats, right? We got to take care of the rats. Let's figure that out. This is a system that regenerates through. It's a beautiful engineering feat. Can we do more like it? For what purpose? That's a very difficult thing to know, that I can help millions of people with type 2 diabetes. And I did it for almost, 2 years, the YouTube channel, and talking, not one single person, right? Nobody cares. They don't care about themselves. They don't care about the planet. They don't care about anything. When you know how to build something beautiful or how to help somebody and have it rejected, that we don't want your help, we don't want to hear what you have to say, right? In fact, we're annoyed that I'm sitting here trying to drink my beer and eat all this cake and donuts and ice cream and stuff, and seeing you not partaking in it, seeing that you've lost 50 pounds, you're healthy, you're 50 years old, you're strong as an ox, makes me feel like shit, because I know what I'm doing is wrong. Just your presence, and even though I'm not saying anything, right, is the thing I imagine. I don't know. There's a lot of I don't knows in these situations. But I guess, as I said, you have to keep pushing forward. To do nothing is where I'm going. And I don't know how much I can keep up talking. I may just have to quit this channel. I don't know. I don't know what to say. That's why I haven't posted on here in a long time. I've been trying to figure this shit out. What the fuck do I say? And I guess I don't even know what the purpose and meaning of me coming on here saying all this. I'm sure I'm going to get ridiculed for it, right? I don't think anybody would understand. Maybe there's a few out there. I don't fucking know. Maybe we have the same views. Maybe nobody cares. Maybe absolutely nobody fucking cares. But the one thing I can see from my perspective right now, and I'd love to know what yours is stay the fuck away from people who are bringing physicality into it. You have to face north, due north when you eat, right? When you wake up in the morning, put your body in certain positions. Don't eat this on Sundays. Worship this. Don't worship that. Read these books. No, don't. It's a deflection. If I think someone truly, truly wanted to help you, they would say, there's nothing that I can do to help you. You need to help you. You need to do nothing, bro. Brothers and sisters, you need to sit quiet. Get in there, feel yourself, not know yourself, but feel yourself. Do whatever you can to create that expansion. You'll know, right? That was another thing that I thought of, is that if this perpetual motion of death and rebirth, reincarnation, sooner or later, and I think that may be the key to a lot of people I know who are kind of a little more uppity at it. It seems like they're a little bit more educated, or maybe not educated, but there's just something about them where you're like, this is an old soul. It's an old soul because it's lived long. And all of those people that I think have done this over and over again, if reincarnation exists, is why it kind of makes sense to me. After a while, there's no escaping it. It may take 100 years, 1,000 years, 1,000,000,000 years of you doing it over and over again until finally you accumulate that, maybe that memory in your soul and in your cells in your body to go, you look, you know what, this is getting old. You know, I've raped 1,000 times. I've been killed 1,000 times. I've been raped 1,000 times. I've killed, been killed. I've been born. What the fuck is going on? You know, I think sooner or later that the truth is going to veer its head. There's no place for you to go, right? Especially if you have to keep coming back. That makes a lot of sense to me, which could be a certain type of hell, but a way for, it's a testing ground or even a punishment ground of, or maybe just a graduation. Like, look, you're brand new. You have to run through this system to learn about yourself, to learn what's good, what's not good. I mean, it's hard, like I said, it's hard to even put into words. To be able to just have your memory wiped clean so you can't remember where you came from every single time. But we want you to become one with yourself, to defeat yourself. So much of it makes sense, so much of it doesn't. Anyways, that's what I got. It feels like I finished. I mean, there's so much fucking more that I probably could say, but I'd be interested in the way you guys feel. I hope you guys got something out of this. I know it's not the best audio, video. I do, let's end with something is, if everything is meaningless and purposeless, there's no purpose in anything. I really started to feel like a bunch of bricks falling off. That's what I can leave you with. If you're suffering and you're deluded, you're delusional and you're deluded and you're like, what the fuck is happening to me? Why don't I have this motivation? Once I started thinking about it, look, nobody gives a fuck. There's two ways to look at it. Nobody gives a fuck about what I've done. Oh, nobody gives a fuck about what I'm doing. Woo, I can do whatever I want, right? Two different perspectives. The feeling I had was that if purpose and meaningfulness is not that important, then I don't need to worry about being, efficient at a job, getting a career and getting all these things. All I really need is to be alone in myself, to be close to nature, to live simple, right? I don't need all the sugar candies and the alcohols and all the stimulation, right? All the time. Social media, quick, short form videos, which I think is the demise of the human mind. But if I simplify, and that's all I need, all the stresses start to come off, Well, I don't need to make as much money as possible. Maybe I don't even need to make any money. That goes down. Maybe this whole stress of death and dying will go. Maybe I don't even have to come back and do this again if I get this right? If I have some sort of realization, I can go to someplace new. What if there's a place without gravity? That'd be really cool, right? Like where you could just float and who knows? But this magic started to come over me where it didn't matter. To the point where you might think this is insane, but I'm like, you don't even have to call a tree a tree. Someone out there called it a tree. You can call it whatever the fuck you want. This is your world. You can see things, perceive things, name things if you want, anything you fucking want. This rat race, this human race, this doesn't define, these laws, they don't confine you to shit. In fact, what was it, a movie with Peter Pan, I think it was called Hook or something, with Robin Williams, and Captain Hook's looking for Peter Pan, and this Aboriginal looking guy comes up in the movie, and he said, I think, tell me where Peter Pan is or I'll shoot you. And he pulls out his gun, and the Aboriginal guy says, death is just the next adventure. And he shoots him, and the Aboriginal turns into a puff of smoke. But if we have these realizations and this shedding of what the ideas are, the fear of death, the unknown, who knows, right? It's the saying goes, don't live in yesterday, And don't dream of tomorrow. Be at the present. That's the person who's living in yesterday is suffering, right? I think that's the way it went. And the person who is looking to the future is stressing on a bunch of shit that they don't even know what the outcome is going to be. The person at peace is the one living in the moment right now. So we can create the reality we prefer, as many of the Sanskrits and the words of Jesus and Buddha and all these people, our thoughts, I think it's Plato, Confucius, our thoughts form our realities. What we think, we become. So your world can literally be redesigned by you. And I think that we have forgotten who we are, and we get caught up in all this emotional drama and physicality of things, and just the agenda of having to have a purpose and a meaning in life, right? I know that may sound crazy, but when you surrender that, well, maybe just for a day, let's do nothing. No purpose, no meaning. Let's self-reflect. It's almost liberating. I'd say in a lot of aspects, it's very liberating. So give it a try. Hopefully that left some positivity on a good note. Good night.